Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about a Linux project, such as a Linux distribution, a desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news, any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the openSUSE project. And with me today, I've got a fantastic and patient group of people. I have Ulfnick, Colin, Jinda, Eric, who has lost his patience with me, which is understandable, and Mr. McBride, who is right here next to me. So you can see it either in his window or in my window or whatever. So how is everybody?
Good. Good. How are you?
Excellent.
Good.
I am doing fantastic.
I was going to say, how's yourself?
How's myself? So
Fancy booth.
Self is going great. I'm here using Noah Chalaya's Ask Noah Mind Drip booth, and it's a lot of fun. He's got such cool equipment here. It makes me want to have my own, just because like how he's able to like move like audio here, there, and everywhere, and even like so people can also listen. I actually don't know which knob does that now that I think about it. I don't know if it's knob 6.
Don't touch anything.
Well, I'm going to touch something here. We're going to see how this goes. See if I turn this up. Can you hear it out there at all? I don't know. Oh no, it says it's muted. I still have muted. Muted. Wait. Anyway, it's you can do all kinds of fun things. He's got like nice cameras, not like the garbage that I have. So we got a guest camera over here and a nice camera here. So if somebody comes in, I can actually switch it all over. And he even added some scenes in my OBS, so I can do that as well. Sean Gold says don't press that button. But why not? It's working right now, so maybe I should make it so it doesn't work. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. So on the docket for today is not just talking about Noah's really cool stuff. Oh, also, be sure to do the straw poll. If you haven't done the straw poll yet, knock that out for me. 2 different straw polls. They should be in the chat. Hopefully, yeah, they're in there. Jinda put them out there. Thank you very much. On the docket for today, we're going to talk about Self, and then any other topics that is out there. So Self is Southeast Linux Fest, and we're having a lot of fun out here. And we're going to talk, conferences, and also like online events, anything of that nature. And then whatever else Eric has, he's got a bunch of things to throw out in there as well. So, and then we'll do our last call. But first, what have you been doing in Linux or tech? Colin, you're just making me smile. It seems like every week. What do you got going on here with openSUSE?
Look, I'm still on the trail of openSUSE, just checking out different desktop environments, how they react, and which one I'd prefer to go with. I've been on the KDE trail lately, but Cinnamon's always been a long-time favorite of mine. But unfortunately, it's way behind in the openSUSE project, so it seems as though nobody's really doing anything with Cinnamon. But I did find Cinnamon repository from a dead Mose. I don't know why it's that name, because it makes it sound like it's a dead project. But I added the repository this morning after installing the generic desktop, which gives you like I don't know what it is, an LXDE or very old LXD sort of desktop. Because the first time I did it, I had Cinnamon installed, added the repository, had all sorts of issues because of the different, what can you say, dependencies were different to the new one. So I thought probably better off to not have a Cinnamon desktop installed at all while trying this. So I did it again, and it's come up okay. It's on the latest Cinnamon desktop, so that's pretty awesome. I do like Cinnamon. I think it seems to be a very good balance between KDE and GNOME. Cinnamon is so. I find it not as complicated as KDE, and not as simple as GNOME. So whether I go with that or not, I'm just trying it. I'm just messing about and seeing how we can get it in there up to date. So that was interesting. I was doing that yesterday and this morning. So I found that interesting to do that. And the other thing I've been messing with is the new FerrinOS Alpha 2. He's got an alpha out. He's been working on a new software center for the longest time. I think he's releasing, or he's planning on releasing somewhere in September. I think it is on the 7th, I think. But whether that happens or not, because he's got a lot to do. So that he's on the KDE desktop with the Nemo file manager. So that seems to be working okay. I've been trying that out in VirtualBox as well. So just sort of keeping up to date with what's going on in the Linux world, and maybe looking at making some videos in the near future, which has been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Do you think it's going to happen in the very near future? I mean, you're in this place for a while now, so I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. Well, I've been, I've had a lot of, I've had to go through all the plans of the house and all that, and it's been, they've missed a lot on the drafting side of things with the house. So, when you're spending a lot of money on a home, you need to make sure that they're planning it, because once you sign that document, which I have now, you got to make sure it's correct, and they're giving you what you're asking for. So, there was a lot of missed off things within that plan. So it's been quite stressful to try and keep up with all that. So I didn't really need distractions, to be honest. So, there's many reasons why I haven't been making videos, and that's one big component.
Right.
But yes, hopefully in the near future I can. So, looking at it. But
So
that's what I've been up to anyway.
Well, if you do videos on openSUSE, that'll just be like cherry on the cake for me.
Yeah, well, I am running it on that Surface Go with KDE, and that's working really well. So I'm really happy with that. Can't be happier with that one, with that scenario. I was looking at using KDE on my main desktop, but I want to install it on my main system. So, I'm thinking about maybe once Ferrens comes out, might use the Ferren OS, or I might use openSUSE. I'm just checking them both out at the moment on VirtualBox, and and figure out. But Ferren uses the KDE desktop alone. I can install Cinnamon with the updated one that I've found out now on openSUSE. So, decisions, isn't it? We're absolutely spoilt on Linux today with the decisions we can make and want to use. Yeah.
And also we're spoiled on like application selections, games now. I don't think there's are there many games that you can't play in Linux at this point? I mean, it seems like that.
I don't know. I don't use.
It's getting smaller and smaller. That anyway.
It is absolutely. They're closing the gap. That's for sure. I don't game, so I don't really know. But I if you keep up with what's his name, Nick at Linux Experiment, he's always talking about how the games are coming up to speed on Linux, and the Proton and the versions keep going, and I get a little bit lost with who's who and the zoo on all that stuff, but it's definitely getting there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is not the same Linux I was playing with 10 years ago, that's for sure.
No. Well, the thing is that, when it comes down to, like, back in the day, I used to use Linux Mint because they used to give you all the codecs and everything, and it made it easier out of the box and all that sort of stuff. But, today you got to figure out, what's the right base. What's the right base? It doesn't. The base doesn't matter anymore because you can get things in Flatpak and stay up to date. I mean, I could also probably go to Debian 12 now, right? Because they've released with the latest KDE desktop, so that would stay the same. If you come out with any bugs, you got to be with those bugs for the next 5 years. So at least the devil when it comes to that. And if you and to have updated packages, all you need is Flatpak, right? So if you want the latest, say Office, LibreOffice or whatever, the Flatpaks will keep you up to date with that. So the Debian base, even though it's behind in packages, doesn't really matter today because there's so many, options for different package formats these days. It's incredible. Spoiled.
Right. I think Eric had a look on his face. Now he usually has a look on his face.
I had, how you have a voice of conscience, and sometimes Zeb is my voice of conscience,
right.
And don't forget that he was just talking about needing a really up-to-date distro in order to have the latest kernel and also to have drivers for his very cutting-edge hardware. So that's the one place where I think a distro still really matters is, if you have hardware that fits into that, into that box.
I agree. Yeah, that is the one thing I have to say.
I wanted to circle around, so I went and looked, and I don't know if it occurred to you to look at the Open Build service, but when I look in there, there is a desktop for desktop. There's an entry for Cinnamon-Desktop that is version 5.8, which is the absolute latest.
The latest
version. Yeah, and I guess that would work if you were to try to, add that and then install from there.
Open Build service. What's
yeah?
that?
Let me put a link in chat. So Nate, can you give us the 30-second pitch on OBS while I'm doing that?
Sure. So OBS, or the Open Build Service, not the Open Broadcaster Studio or Open Broadcaster Software Studio.
No, okay.
Not that. But OBS, the openSUSE project, it falls under the openSUSE umbrella of projects, is a place where you can go to take your software and build it for multiple different architectures and distributions. So let's say Adam develops like the absolute most awesomest game ever. He could essentially build that for a variety of different Linux distributions. So openSUSE, of course, openSUSE Tumbleweed, the Leap and Tumbleweed, and then you can also build it against Debian and Ubuntu and Arch and whatever else. I think there is also a builder, so you can actually build a Flatpak as well. I'm not 100% sure on the Flatpak bit. No, not Flatpak, App Image. And there was at least one time there talk of App Image as well, so you can build app images off of that, is my understanding. But also you can build it for different architectures, so everything that openSUSE currently has, that it supports, which is, of course, x86, 64, and 32, if you feel like it. It also supports the ARM architecture, ARM, and then also it's whatever IBM's PowerPC, the X, like 39 something. I can't remember the nomenclature exactly. And then there's a few others too. But also there are builders they're dormant. But if you want to build something against the Motorola 68K processor, you can do that too if you really feel like it. Which I can't imagine why you'd want to do that, because it probably would be too big. But anyway, yeah. So you can build at your software binaries for a multitude of different architectures and platforms.
Right. And the benefit of that is that you don't have to do it on your own hardware. You have this server farm that can grind through all of that. And
yeah, exactly.
It's really quite a service,
and
honestly.
Distributed as well.
Yeah. I mean, there are major companies using it as a means to, build their software. It's not just, smaller projects. So it's actually quite a generous thing for them to offer that. As a something that's open for developers to build their projects in. But the nice thing about it is, especially for openSUSE, but other distros as well, you can go there and search, and those packages that have been built are also hosted there, and so you can find a RPM version of a piece of software that maybe isn't in the repository. I've done that before, stuff like that. So anyway, when you were mentioning that it wasn't up to date in the main repositories, that's the first thing I thought was, let me go check Open Build Service, and it appears to be there. So
maybe that's what that guy's done. The repository that I put in, maybe he's built it from there. Maybe, who knows?
Quite possibly.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a name associated with this. I don't really see credentials, or there might be some way. Anyway, so that is that's kind of a neat thing that openSUSE does.
Okay, I have to check that out.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, thanks.
Off of that thing down there.
Okay.
Okay.
The other nice thing too is they have like a lot of the recipes and such for building are all available there too. You can actually pull down similar projects, and then you can use those to help you with the building as well. So,
Right.
So if you are into doing some really cool, software stuff, distributing software for whatever project, then you can do that. I haven't heard from Adam yet. He joined the stream a little bit late, but that's okay because he's fashionably late. And I already called him out once, and he didn't say anything. So I don't know. How you doing, Adam?
Doing all right. I was finishing my dinner.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt your dinner. My apologies.
No, it's all good.
I'll start Linux a little bit later next time, just so we can make sure that dinner is done.
The least you could do is accommodate me, Nate. Come on. The whole self thing, it's not important. Come on. No, I'm doing all right. You were talking about the game thing earlier. From a technical perspective, the vast majority of games can work. The big name ones that don't work, they don't work because the companies don't want them to work. It's basically how it is.
Is it fair to say that most older titles work, and that maybe some of the newer ones are the ones that you have the greatest difficulty with, or is it's not that clean?
It's usually something regarding an anti-cheat or some kind of DRM thing they built into it.
Anti-cheat that a lot of the game vendors won't select.
Yeah, they're concerned with support tickets and everything.
If you look through ProtonDB, that's what I see a lot of.
Yeah, so stuff like
Gotcha.
Destiny 2, Fortnite, etc. These really popular big games. Valorant's another one. These games have either anti-cheat or DRM stuff in that just prevents them from running it without the company's thumbs up.
Gotcha. Is it the case that it's easier to cheat on Linux, and that's one of the reasons that they don't want to support it? That because
I don't know the technical details, but it's got to do with a game or something anti-cheat running in Ring 0, which the Linux kernel doesn't want to allow.
Yeah, the anti-cheat stuff in Windows often runs at the lowest kernel level possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the idea is being able to read memory and detect that kind of thing and all that.
Okay.
They're categorically spyware. They really are. They're pretty low level. Some virus manufacturers would really love to have access that low. And but
So
it's really that.
You're saying the anti-cheat is malware that is you voluntarily install?
It's pretty heinous how much access it has.
Really?
Yeah. You can find stuff online. People talk about the Valorant anti-cheat and the Call of Duty anti-cheats and stuff. They get really low level.
What always amazes me is that I would play games that have anti-cheat,
and they're still
yet
cheaters.
Somehow people are
doesn't work.
cheating, and it's like, well,
So they
what's
got
the
this
point?
low level access to your machine, and yet they're still cheaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on the game
It's
developer.
Yep.
But I guess at the same time, it's you could have the anti-cheat and 10,000 cheaters, or no anti-cheat and 4 million cheaters.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it kind of trims out the more the less
The
aggressive
low-hanging
cheaters.
fruit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what can you do? I guess.
The answer is probably to give everyone cheats.
You can play
Right.
the games that
Yeah.
will allow us to play on Linux.
It actually reminds me of the really cool stuff that some developers do for anti-piracy, where they'll let you pirate their game, but if it detects it's a pirate game, they'll do stuff like make it increasingly difficult over time, or where every time you reload your weapon, you have one less bullet in the magazine. Every time, those really annoying things just to mess with people who pirate their game.
See, that's funny.
That's excellent.
It's we'll let you play. Good luck. Yeah.
Speaking of pirating, which is way off course here, but do you remember those anti-piracy things from the 90s where you had a wheel and you had to line up
Don't
different
copy
symbols?
that floppy.
Don't copy that floppy.
Oh yeah. Where it tells you look at this page in the manual, or the decoder wheel or something. Yeah.
The decoder wheel to me was the creme de la creme, because that was a lot harder to copy. It was also made on red paper, dark, a burgundy paper with black writing on it, so you had to really strain in the light to see it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I had a game that came with a computer we bought. It was a Packard Bell computer, and it came with it didn't come with the manual for the game. It just came with the game, right? When they used to sell you a computer with 20 different CDs. And so playing this game, and I get to a point where it's hey, we need this 5-digit thing. It's in the manual. So me and my brother spent a couple hours just brute forcing this 5-digit code. Sitting there just getting it wrong until accepted that digit. All right, write that one down.
That's hilarious.
We just spent a while doing that, and then we just wrote it down on a post-it note, and put it on the computer. It's like anytime we play the game, that's the code.
It's amazing how much patience you have when you're young to do
It's
that kind of
true.
stuff.
I mean, when you either do it or you don't play.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Too many alternatives now.
And yeah, also
Yeah.
when you got the game, also when you're young, you didn't have the possibility of going online and trying something else. There wasn't a
Yeah.
Even if you
Right.
had BBS, you had to wait a day anyway for it to download whatever you wanted. So there wasn't even an option to you had nothing else to do. You can go outside and play with sticks and hoop as a
Hoop stick, yeah.
hoop stick. Yeah.
Oop stick.
All right, good times. So Eric, you said you have an open source replacement for NVIDIA Game Stream?
Yeah, I was a GameStream, still am a GameStream user for many years, and basically what it was is the GeForce Experience app had had the ability to stream basically the PC, mainly games, but you could also add entries for the desktop as well, and be able to then play those games remotely on a much lower powered device. So basically game streaming, but sort of internal, on your LAN. And so I would use a low powered laptop and then stream from my desktop. And it was only ever really supported on Windows as far as I know. So the main PC was Windows, but I had Linux on my system, and there's a client called Moonlight that's been around for a long time, and it's multi distro, multi device. You can have it on Android and iOS and Mac and PC, and basically it just kind of supports everything that would allow you to use this game stream capability.
Mm-hmm.
Well, NVIDIA is discontinuing it. It had basically been built for the stream, their stream device,
Mm-hmm.
but you could use it with Moonlight. And anyway, so they were discontinuing it, and in the spirit of open source and hacking everywhere, somebody just decided that they were going to see if they could come up with a way to recreate their own server that would take the place of GameStream, so that then you could still use Moonlight. And so this project's called Sunshine, and
I see what they did there.
right. Very clever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially they are publishing a bunch of different Linux distro. They have a Deb, an RPM, an app
Mm-hmm.
image, and a couple of different things. I think they have it for Mac as well. And anyway, so for me, it's been zero configuration. So they kind of have said that it's not like the most polished software, and if you're lucky, like apparently I am, you install it, and if you run Sunshine at a command prompt, it will just run, and then you can go to a different computer and use Moonlight, and it'll connect up, and everything's fine. I've heard that that's not always the case, and it can get a little daunting to try to figure out exactly why it's not working because of all the different hardware configurations and all of that. But apparently I have the right combination, or one of the right combinations. And so, yeah, I installed Sunshine, just kicked it off at a command prompt, went to my laptop. You have to enter a code to sort of pair them. And that's it. It's beautiful. It creates a remote desktop entry for you. So it's an alternative to an RDP or a different, remote desktop setup. So you can just connect through Moonlight to get to the desktop itself, or you can get to Steam's big picture mode.
Mm-hmm.
And play games that way. So I use it mostly as a remote desktop server and client setup, just because there's almost zero latency, and that's over not the best Wi-Fi connection, and it's intended obviously for gaming, so it's intended to be as low latency as possible. And anyway, it's just it's really cool that somebody just decided they weren't happy about NVIDIA discontinuing this service, and yeah, it's great. And now, even better, the host PC is also Linux, so it's fully Linux. And with what we were just talking about with Proton, I could run all of those same games that I was running on Windows on Linux. And yeah, it is incredible how far we've come with the capabilities, that people have spent, hard, lots of time and effort putting this together. But it's just amazing to me that, this guy just decided he wanted to come up with a replacement, and he did, and it works great. And it's just, yeah.
So is the NVIDIA Game Stream, was that a piece of hardware, or is that just software?
It was software built into their GeForce experience.
Okay.
And you would just enable it, and then you can choose if it was just for all the games because GeForce Experience also had some things like it would optimize games and had different profiles for different games, and you could like set different sort of driver profiles and settings, like what all of the sort of, do you want anti-aliasing? Do you want sort of like all of the nuts and bolts kind of advanced settings? And you could do that per game, so that was kind of neat. But then also it had this capability to do the game stream aspect, and then you could pick which games or all games. And like I said, you could add an entry for the desktop, for remote desktop. So it's a very useful piece of software. And yeah, it's just surprising that they chose to discontinue. I really didn't dig into why they're choosing to do that. They probably have a valid reason. Anyway, yeah, just another example of some really excellent developer who had, the time and determination to just figure it out. And here I am benefiting from it.
Yeah. So then anybody could install that essentially then.
Yeah.
And use.
Yeah, it comes as I think there's a deb, an RPM, an app image. I think there's a DMG for Mac, EXE for Windows. And then Moonlight runs on everything as well. So you could have it being hosted from just about any system, and also being streaming to just about any system. So
yeah, I can see a lot of uses for that, really. I mean, outside, just outside of gaming, but I mean because
it's really the low latency. So I had tried to use Steam's in-home streaming, and always had problems with my Wi-Fi. I would have just drop packets, and it was just really frustrating to try to play a game where that you had to have any kind of smooth motion, like a shooter or anything like that, where you had to be moving quickly. It was just absolutely, it was unplayable. You just got so fed up with the latency spikes that I just gave up, and was looking for different options for, how can I stream? There's a piece of software called Parsec, which is another one that only runs on Windows, but it does a very similar thing. It streams, but I've had problems with it as well. And Game Stream with Moonlight was always just the best setup. It just worked on crappy Wi-Fi, and it was very good at reducing quality. Instead of interrupting the action, it would just maybe the fidelity would go down just a touch.
Okay.
But you could still, the motion was still smooth, so it wasn't like it was jerky. I mean, think of playing on a PC that has low specs or a slow disk or something, and you just get that stuttering. Yeah, it's exactly like that on those other solutions, for me at least, on my network.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a loss in like resolution or clarity is better than getting all herky jerky, for sure.
Yep. So I'll put a link for both Sunshine and Moonlight in the chat, and just really
throw them on the show
really good
too,
stuff.
That'd be really cool.
Sure, I can do that. I can do that.
Excellent. That's a really neat project. I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, if you want to, let's say you want to watch a movie, and, you want to put on multiple screens, right? So let's say you start it from, one computer in one room, and then you have another computer that's a media computer in another. You could then have the audio and video coming through with low latency, so that everything, so you can enjoy the same thing no matter where you are. That sounds really pretty awesome.
Nate, does that mean you're watching movies in the bathroom?
I don't have a computer. I don't have a computer in the bathroom.
Don't? Not yet.
Man, if you ain't there until your legs fall asleep, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Or you're just having a bad time.
Maybe you're doing it wrong then, right?
You're doing something else wrong. That could be it. No, that's a really cool project. I hope that that continues to be successful for sure, because there's so many uses for that.
Yeah, just the low latency aspect and being able. So one of the things that I do with it a lot is video editing. So I can edit video on my desktop. No latency, no stuttering, no loss of quality, and it's like sitting in front of the computer. So it's really I've used it probably less for gaming than more for audio editing, video editing, streaming content. Just stuff where it's going to make your laptop fans come on and scream. Like anything in that situation, it's like, oh, I could just stream this from my desktop and not have to hear the fans. So
right. I suppose then you have to have all your screen resolutions be the same.
So my desktop is normally 2000 something, and normally it's 2560 by 1440, and it'll scale. It's okay, but it's tiny. So if I'm doing any kind of like editing where I need to see the UI, if I'm just watching a movie or something, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But if I'm if I am looking at something where I need to see the UI or text or something, then and it's whatever, just turn down the resolution, and then when I'm sitting here again, I just turn it back up. Not the most elegant solution, but I'm a simple guy. I don't care, it works.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then I guess I don't really have if I put on my Steam Deck, then I could play my Steam Deck on a different machine, but that seems like it's defeating the purpose, because that's my most powerful graphic machine game playing machine. So anyway, that's very cool. Well, I'm glad you had that in the link in the show notes, because that's something I need to follow up on, because I already have let's say I want to watch something in the bedroom as well as the living room and the kitchen, because I go between the rooms, then I could do that. It'd be perfect. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Can watch Colin's new videos on all screens at once. Well, if you have not done the straw poll yet, if you can take the time to do that, that would be really awesome of you. And this is concerning your attendance at Linux or FOSS conferences, about physically and virtually attending them, if you do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that, see how it looks. Well, okay, I guess I'll vote again. No, I don't have to. All right, so do you attend physically Linux or FOSS conferences? We had 62% said, no, I wish, but I hadn't been able to attend one. 14% say, yes, I have at least attended one. 9.5% say, no, I'm not interested. 4.7 say, yes, I've gone to several. And I've got some others as well. And then one vote for Tux Penguin. So there is that. And then do you attend virtually Linux or FOSS conferences? I have 38% say no. 23% say yes, I have at least attended one virtually. Oh, I'm sorry. The first one was no, I wish I could, but I haven't been able to. Then 23% say yes, I've attended at least one virtually. 19% said yes, I've attended several virtually. 14% says no, I'm not interested. And then I have one for other, and nobody voted Tux Penguin on that one. So for some of the other replies, is I always wanted to go to Scale, but I hate driving through the traffic in that area. That's understandable. And then another one, other virtual. I might enjoy that experience, but there's just no way I could devote the time without taking time off from work. And if I were to go take time off from work, I might as well just jump in the car and just go. That makes sense. Now, me personally, I find that I have a tend to like online, but it's like I'll just like watch, like a talk or whatever, and then I think there was one that I could actually interact with that talk, and that was pretty cool. But I haven't really had not like the whole conference, because you don't get that like the interaction in the room experience, I find. Has anybody here attended any in-person events?
I have.
No,
Adam, you have.
Yeah,
I've seen
been where
photographic
you're
proof.
at now.
Oh, you have been. That's right.
Yeah.
You actually you met Rocco, and that's when
And
Zeb was
Zeb.
here. Yep.
Yeah, and Ryan, Michael, several people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 2019, I believe.
Yeah, 2019. Yep.
Yep. You remember that was pretty big when I was there. I was seeing little clips from a distance. I couldn't go. I had other obligations. That would have been
You
the
had
one
your
to go
chance.
to. Yep, I had my chance, but I bombed it, I guess.
That's all good. Yeah, and I had an opportunity to go to a Red Hat conference a couple weeks ago, but I ended up. It would have been the week before I went down to Atlanta to visit family, and I was just like, that's way too much. So I decided not to go to the conference.
Yeah, I understand.
Mistakes were made.
Which mistakes?
It's all good. I'm just messing. No, it was up in Boston. It was the Red Hat Summit that they did, and Ansible Fest. They like combined them. But a bunch of my coworkers went, so
Did
I
they
got
enjoy
to
it?
live vicariously through them. Yeah, I mean, it's like an industry thing, so it's not really like a fun, I mean, it's probably fun, but it's not like self, right? It's not like an enthusiast
commercial.
thing. It's more of an industry, commercial kind of thing.
I almost went.
Anybody else? So Eric, you have not. Jinda, no.
No, I feel like it's an inevitability. There will be a time where I almost came this year. I had been planning on driving up north for something else and had been trying to coordinate it so that I would have been able to be there this weekend and then continue through, and it just fell through. So, I just, and that seems to happen like every time I think, okay, this is the year I'm going to figure this out, and life just kind of gets in the way. And unfortunately, a conference, me going to that conference is entirely just for my own curiosity and enjoyment. I can't say there's any sort of like professional component to it, so it's too easy for me to make it a lower priority. So anyway.
I would say for me, it's 80% personal, and there's probably 20% of the conference that I can use at work. So there's a little bit.
There was some networking I was doing here that actually will benefit me for work, not like my play work, but my actual work, as far as what I plan on doing there. So I did get some business cards and whatnot, and so for me that was useful. I failed my ham exam, so that was fun. The ham radio, amateur radio, failed that. That was fun. So got to do that. They had a free exams here as well. But there's. I think you're probably. I think as Mr. McBride here says, it's probably more fun than work, for sure. But I think that being someone who likes technology, it helps to bridge some of the work and fun. I think and it's motivating, to keep doing the things you're doing, I guess. So, what about any other conferences? Has anyone here been to a tech-related conference for work? Not necessarily open source. Oh, okay, Mr. McBride.
Yeah.
Bearded man over here.
Yeah,
I can throw you on.
I've been to.
Yeah. Well, you just.
I've been to
right here.
Yep.
We can share a mic.
Yeah.
Come on, pull up a chair.
Is the subject just conferences?
Yep, it's just conferences. So let's see if this works. I'm going to switch it to the guest camera. And here we are.
See how this works.
All right. Are you picking
Look at
me
that.
up
Yeah.
on the mic? Good.
Mhm.
All right. So the subject is which conferences for work?
Or no, anything conference wise.
Okay,
Like,
so Arkansas has what is known as the Arkansas Conference Technology. It is actually started by a friend of mine. It is very centric for K-12, but not necessarily limited to that. You know, we get people from universities, some private, because the vendors and the talks that the gentleman that runs that conference is able to bring in is pretty big. It's done nothing but grow bigger every year. We've actually had to change hotels because of how large it's being. And last year's was very, very security centric, which I found very helpful. We had a company that was there that did like a post-mortem to where there was a hack. We had to go through and figure out how they got in, what all systems were compromised with the ransomware that got in. And long story short, once they were done, it turned out there was a vendor account that was compromised on a web machine that they had a third party working on in this scenario, and they were able to compromise that account, put the ransomware on the web server, which was like an intranet server, and 3 machines were infected because of that. So it was a great exercise and just tracing out, looking at firewall logs, looking through Splunk, and finding what it was. I found that very valuable. But then again, it's also a great time to network. It's also a great time to swap war stories, which is the same way as Southeast Linux. I've stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning here each night since I've been here, just swapping war stories and learning from people. You know, what are you struggling with? What was that one thing that you thought you weren't going to recover from? And those things are always, to me, invaluable. So yeah, you come to the conference, you hear the talks, but sometimes I feel like the most valuable part is when the talks are over and you're just eating with somebody or hanging out with somebody in the hallway and just swapping war stories.
Hallway conversations.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
that's
much.
the best part.
The best part.
yeah. So you come for the talks, but you stay for the war stories.
That's right. Yeah, every time. Every time. Yeah, especially when I was working in schools, and a lot of people face the same problems due to all the systems that are state level that we have to interact with to do certain things, getting reporting or rostering students into other systems. And one of the GitHub project that came out of that was getting a PowerShell scripting community that helped us pull out what student information we wanted to and get it into a system which is called Clever, which is like a single sign-on, and it also helps you roster students into other curriculum. And so the way Clever makes money is that they partner with these curriculum vendors to make you where you have like a single sign-on. And our source of truth was Google, because we were a Google App Store. So yeah, just having that community, and we had a GitHub project that helped develop and contribute to some PowerShell scripting to help us pull down that student data, just as an example, and be able to bounce off ideas of that and being able to improve it. And plus, just people with different experiences. You know, I may have an OpenShift project coming up, and I was able to sit around with some people here that have OpenShift experience, and where Steve Evans is one of them, you know, from Ask Noah. So that was also a great conversation to have with him to talk about some things that's coming up.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I guess, Eric, there are some very valid things to pull out of these conferences for sure.
Oh yeah.
And you never know, it might be one of those things that you actually would get those war stories afterward that might be of great benefit. I don't know. I don't have any war stories yet when it comes to tech troubles, and I'm hoping I don't have any, because not anytime too soon anyway. So since you're here, what was your name?
My name is Brandon.
Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So thank you for joining us. We
Oh,
do
yeah.
this every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m.
It's
Eastern.
a Linux Saloon, and it's nice to have a different face on, you know. So it's fun. And then we have on the screen, I don't know if you can see it there, but we have Colin He's from Australia, so he's
Oh.
he's living in the future. So he can tell us all about how the 11th has started, and that's fun. And then Jinda is from we don't know where Jinda's from. Nobody knows. It's like a bat cave or something like that. I don't know. Incognito. Yeah. But it's great to have Eric is from Florida, so he's always got a sunny disposition. And Ulfnick, I think it's
UK
from
here.
UK. Ulfnick's from UK, and then Adam Grubbs, formerly of the Atlanta area, Georgia, but now he decided to turn in his sweaty coat for a big, thick fur coat to live in the cold north of Wisconsin.
The sun never sets on the Linux Saloon Empire.
That's right. Yeah, there's always the sun shining somewhere for somebody.
Adam, I hail from the Atlanta area.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's awesome. No, it's all good. I lived most of my life there, so whereabouts in Atlanta? Like,
I don't have any monitor, and you guys don't have any monitor out there on the.
It's down there. It's just not working.
Yeah, I didn't know if I needed to turn on which channel to turn up because I can hear you guys talk, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't hear the monitor.
What we're discussing is we have an external speaker, but for some reason we're not getting a signal to it.
It's a shame you don't have any tech guys around.
Noah has wandered off somewhere.
yeah.
He's in the rag chew down there where they're doing something.
Yeah, they're installing like a Linux distro from 1992 on a 486.
Your Grassel.
Nice.
Yeah. They challenged a guy. I think it was a gentleman that did the talk that was how to make Ansible suck less. So they've challenged
Jeff
him.
Probst.
Yes, they've challenged him to get this Linux distro set up on it. You know, and I was looking at this old computer, and it just felt like going back to high school in the 90s. The old white boxes.
What
that were
distro are
lined
they
up
using?
on the
Oh,
tables?
He's
I was
only
hoping it
allowed
was
to use the
beige,
man
but-
pages.
Oh, is that what it
Cannot
is?
use the
I didn't know what
internet.
all the channel was. No
you cannot use the
Googling, no
internet.
nothing.
He's got to figure it out.
If only I had a way
I
of
at
like,
least had a book.
a book. That's true. You did have manuals back in the day.
Oh, I had a closet full of manuals, big ones.
It's underneath the stand there.
Oh, you can move that around. I've already borked up the stream so much with my mistakes. I can't
Does
imagine.
it work?
No, I don't think it has any monitor. It
Oh.
may not be on.
No,
Maybe plugged in. Okay, here's
it's the
somebody
little
laughing,
things.
though.
That's me.
It's a little bit low.
Yeah. Nobody's talking, so you can't actually hear the
There we go.
level.
There we go. I've got a good monitor.
Okay, now I got a good monitor.
Welcome
There
to
we
the larger
go.
group.
Well, thank you.
You're
Kind of
now,
expected.
you're now part. You didn't have anything else going on, did you?
Nah, just drinking.
There you go.
Just drinking?
Yes, he's got Jameson here on the table, so.
Good man. Good man.
It's,
Hi.
You said you worked in K-12 for a
I did
while, or still work?
I did
Okay.
for many years. Now I'm on the university level in the research center, wrangling Linux servers for our researchers.
Yeah, I worked at Atlanta Public Schools for about 6 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was work.
It can be, especially if you have a one-to-one program. Sometimes I swear that 7th and 8th grader just want to tear a thing up just to see if they can.
Thankfully, I was pretty distant from the end user, so
Well, at a small school, we were about a 3-man team. It was the director and me and another guy. So you wear many
Oh, okay.
hats. Now, the good thing about that is you get to learn a lot. You do
Yeah.
get to be a kind of jack of all, master of none. But it's really where I got to just cut my teeth on VLANing. It's really where I jumped in head first on infrastructure because I just had the opportunity. If I wanted to take the baton, I could. And I was really interested in that years ago. So that's really was the opportunity to grow because it was there for the taking. You just had to jump on it.
you know that's something I've kind of noticed talking to younger people who were either interns or whatever at APS. They all seem to want to be interested in like software development, and I'm thinking like, what's the next generation of infrastructure people? Where are they? Like, it seems like all the infrastructure people are older,
Right.
and like
also,
there's not that many young people getting into infrastructure.
See, we have a gentleman. His name is Mike Myers. I think he wrote a book for Network Plus. I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm getting a nod
so not
here,
the one that
so I'm
killed
not
people,
forgetting.
okay.
He did a talk at ACOT, which is Arkansas Conference of Technology, And he was asking us, he's just like, how come I'm not seeing young people get these certifications? Because he's trying to get into the schools to get these programs. And my answer was, well, Arkansas as a state has an initiative for computer science, but there's not really an initiative for networking or infrastructure. And that's kind of why it's all about computer science, doing Scratch, doing Python. But there's nobody really doing that kind of, I guess, more of IT, or what used to be called MIS, which I think now is BIS, Business Information Systems, at the college I work at. And it's actually a shame. We used to have a school that did competitions, was computer repair. And it was kind of part of VOTEC, and they would go to these competitions, and they would just take a computer, they would break it, and it was up to you to figure out what was wrong with it. And a lot of times this little school from Arkansas, probably a town of less than 3,000 people, would usually win on the national level by being able to troubleshoot that system. But I don't know if that program's even in place no more. So I sometimes wonder if there might be an opportunity there. It just depends on where to get it started. And I don't know if it would start out as a state initiative, but I think as a local initiative, I think we could probably get it going if we had enough students that were interested in it.
I have to wonder if there's a correlation between lack of interest in hardware and lack of people building their own systems. I mean, when I started, I pretty much had to build. I mean, you could buy computers, but they were really boring. And so it was always way more interesting to me to build something. And maybe that's just my personality or something. But like when I did my tech program, like it was all about being in the lab and tearing things down and building new computers and, getting a router in front of you and like just doing, having access to all that equipment and, just really playing with it. It was a game. It was all just fun, to play around with. And I think there's maybe a little less of that kind of hardware. Like we've done so much to get the hardware out of the end user's hands. Everything's behind a piece of glass now. Everything's, sort of behind some sort of barrier that they don't see the workings anymore. Our cars are like that. Our lives are like, everything's just hands off now. You're not supposed to touch anything. And like, I was the kid that was tearing his toys apart, on Christmas Day and stuff like that. And so, I mean, maybe that is just a predisposition of that sort of, seeing something as a puzzle and wanting to figure it out. But like, I kind of feel like if I'm trying to get my daughter into, seeing the insides of things and not being afraid, because a lot of it is confidence, right? I mean, you just have to have the confidence to just say, you know what, I got to get in there and try it. And yeah, it might not go perfectly the first time, but that's how you learn. And I mean, I learned a lot through my programs and certifications and stuff like that, but I learned so much more just by doing something, having a real world problem, like you were saying about being in the 3-man team, and if there's something to come up that needed help, and you were just like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and and I learned more from doing that than any of the other things that I did, just because I had to figure it out myself. And part of it too was pre-Google world, where I had to really, really figure it out, not just kind of search and find clues. But anyway, like, it is a shame that younger people don't see the sort of how interesting networks are, how interesting hardware is. And I don't know what you do to fix that, honestly. That is a tough question.
Well, what you're talking about is more VOTEC. A lot of higher ed looks at that. They want theory. If you go for computer science, it is very much, in fact, one of our keynote speakers said that's more of a mathematical kind of degree, kind of thinking degree. And there's professors, when you say, hey, what about more hands-on lab, their response sometimes will be, well, we're not VOTEC, we are theory, we are a higher university.
And a lot of schools push you to universities rather than like that kind of thing, right? So I guess you could think of like the stuff that infrastructure guys do is more like becoming a mechanic versus becoming like an automotive engineer kind of thing, right?
Right, but we need them. Somebody's got to pull the
right,
cable.
exactly.
Somebody's got to rack the servers.
Good luck
somebody's
running
gotta-
the code on nothing.
Right. Yeah. Somebody's got to figure out the VLANs and how we're going to secure things and my routes and everything else.
Yep.
Well, Eric, you're not alone. I still build my own PCs.
Me too. Me too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I priced
Only way
hardware,
to go.
but back in the day, you could get parts from Newegg better than you could buy anything from Dell
Yep.
and just build it yourself.
Yep. My first computer was a store bought, and I started when I really got into playing around with it and tearing it apart and realizing like some of the components were, not really the best that I could get, and I just swapped some of those out. And then when I was ready for another PC, and that's the other thing, I think there just aren't as many PCs anymore. People are using devices or I don't know, but yeah, I immediately realized like I can't buy something that I could build something way better than I could buy, right? And it'd be less expensive. I'll know all the parts, and it was interesting to me to do. So that's probably the other thing is even though a lot of people can do stuff, maybe they just don't have an interest. But I'm one of those people too that like a micro kind of person where it's like not everybody has to go to college. You can go to a tech program and Votech or whatever and get your certificates and get out into the workforce, and there's a place for everybody in technology. Not everybody's got to be a software engineer. It's a hard message to get out there though, because a lot of kids think, oh, I'm not smart enough to do math, I'm not smart enough to they only see computers as being like maybe that's where we're going wrong, is that we're not saying, well, no, think of all of the networks that are spanning the country, and every office needs cabling run. Every office needs, server racks, or somebody's got to do that work, and it's not unskilled labor. It's, it's a very rewarding career, but I think it's tough. Maybe guidance counselors, maybe it's just they're not, making people aware that that's actually something they can do.
Well, I'm of the opinion.
Maybe they're not even aware of something you can do.
It's hard to teach some of the IT stuff in schools because IT changes so fast. If you're in a university and you're taking classes per semester, you're going to be changing books in the middle of the semester because the technology just changes that fast.
You could be. There for a while, our local college was still teaching Novell group-wise for a long time.
I have some old Novell certifications myself.
I kind of felt like they were kind of behind the times. And by the time they had a class called Windows Server, it was kind of like, yeah, it's about time. So sometimes academia can trail, but a lot of it has to do with the leadership too. If you got good leadership in that department, usually things can move a lot faster. But when I did networking, we had to do the math, figure out our subnets, do the cabling, and then route it. That was like one of your final type of exercises you did before you did like the written test. And just having that to me was invaluable, that hands-on. And there is a big disconnect with university versus Votech on the hands-on. I worked with a guy that I was trying to get him to help me pull cable, and he'd had a master's degree. I think it was the MIS degree. And I said, have you ever terminated cable before? He's like, well, we saw pictures of it. I said, what do you mean you just saw pictures of it? You guys didn't get the cable down. You didn't terminate it. You didn't test it and know that, okay, I've got a good crimp on the end of this thing. And he's like, no, we just talked about it in theory. And it just felt weird to me. Like, I don't understand how you can do a networking class and not at least terminate cable a couple of times so you kind of have an idea of how to do it.
Yeah, simply because if that's the work you're doing, how are you going to troubleshoot something if you don't know that that's a possibility?
Exactly.
Like, this is a bad cable, right? It happens all the time. You need to be able to just, figure that out. So I think there's also, there has to be a reasonable expectation of education where it's going to be close. You're right. Things move too fast. And I mean, it moves faster today than it did 25 years ago when I did it. But still, like, it's going to move. And I know that I learned a certain corpus, right? There was a certain set of topics that I learned. When I went out in the field, one, it didn't cover everything I needed to know. And two, some of it was a little behind, but it was enough that I knew how to learn systems, that I could understand things and trace things and troubleshoot. And like, those are the skills that no matter, you can apply that to a wide variety of things. And yeah, you have to have some technical knowledge and do some reading and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the work you're doing is sort of, I think you can kind of get a feel for that without knowing that this is like the absolute latest thing. And, because that's one of the interesting things about this as a career, is that it is always changing. It's not just going to be the same thing. Like for the next 30 years, you're just doing the same thing, Right. That's kind of cool. And I think that, DevOps stuff has been a revelation. Think about that. DevOps didn't exist. I mean, I think back to when I was doing that, and that's not what it was. There was no name for it, right? It was just, I was doing those things, and I didn't have the tool sets and the things that are there today. And, everything I did was physical infrastructure. There was no virtualization. There was no, everything. If it was a machine, it was a machine. There was no virtual anything. And
right, if it had a button on it, it was your responsibility.
Right. And it's such a different world today. And it mostly all for the better. I mean, the ability to scale, the ability to, to deploy, to, repeatable process. And like, it's amazing. And doing it over now, I would do DevOps 100%. Like, it's such a fascinating thing to me. But I think a lot of people just don't even look at it as being an interesting thing to do. I mean, how does a high school kid even know what DevOps is? I don't know.
They have a boring uncle like me.
Probably not. They probably don't think you're boring. They just think you're, eccentric and a little bit, odd.
My nephews think I'm pretty all right.
Well,
they don't see me as an old person like they do the rest of them. So
the fewer kids that enter that marketplace just leaves more money for us, right?
Yeah.
You can set yourself.
Or the less people interested in it, the less legitimacy it gets, and then the less jobs there are for us.
The more they'll automate it with AI and
right.
eliminate your job.
Well, contrary to popular belief, automation doesn't write itself.
That's right.
Nope, nor does it maintain itself.
Yeah, all those changes we're talking about, those have to be factored in.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I had a PTSD moment. What was that? Not to make light of people with PTSD.
Well, but I think that, sort of circling back, I think that would be probably one of the most interesting parts of going to conferences. I know it was for me in medical technology it's a subset of a subset of a subset of like, skills, and almost nobody knew what you were talking about. So to be in a room with people that you could talk about what's going on in the industry and war stories and all that was always very interesting. So I can imagine, even though I don't do anything with Linux professionally, I guess technically I do with web servers and stuff. Anyway, I think it would still be interesting to go and meet some of the faces behind the names, stuff like that. So one of these days.
Well, sorry.
I would say I think it's definitely worth it to come here. I think getting to meet new people and actually interact with them face to face and just hear, being able to just chat with a random person and then have that interest in technology, to me is really huge, because you don't, I started talking about technology with like my boss at my job, and she'll just look at me and say, like, I understand it, but I just don't get excited about it. Just, it is what it is, and that's fine, and it's fun to like be around people who are excited about the intricacies and the little nuances of the technology that you enjoy. You know what I mean?
The one thing that you don't get with like Zoom and everything that you do get at conferences is the smell. You get to smell people.
This is true.
So like, I don't know what you smell like.
For better or worse.
Like, are you an Old Spice dude? Are you a Speed Stick? Or like what you got going on? And so like,
are you still wearing Axe?
Yeah, Old Spice,
right, yeah.
Fiji.
Is it still middle school? Or are you still walking around with that? Yeah.
Or is it a guy that needs some Old Spice?
That's right, some Old Spice Fiji
right.
in his life. A little bit of Bath and Body Works going on.
He just stopped at Just stopped at the old. Yeah.
So you
Oh,
need
man.
some text at the bottom of the screen that describes what the person smells like when you see them on video is kind of like an
Yeah,
accessibility
like
thing. You can
augmented
imagine
across them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just follows him, like motion tracking.
it. Augmented smell reality. Yeah, yeah.
Some dude just
Final
walked by
frontier.
and just says garlic. Yeah.
Or bag of onions.
They can't smell the Jameson
Yep.
and Coke right now.
This is true.
It looks
Although I
like
know what it
somebody
smells like,
just-
so
It looks like somebody just ordered 70 pizzas.
Oh, did it finally come in?
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah.
They use the
Yeah, so now we got Jameson, Coke, and pizza.
yeah, it smells like right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's in the land party room.
Yeah, and my kids are in that land
Intestinal
party room, too.
distress.
They're I brought some things, here, like my Commodore Imposter, which I'm not using it because it's just not convenient for the setup here. But the computer that I built with my daughter, the pink one, looks like an old terminal.
I saw that. That's you that did that. I
Yeah.
saw her sitting there playing.
Yeah.
So what's the keyboard inside that thing?
I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's pronounced kind of like diarrhea.
So I thought it was like a keychron or something you ripped apart and put
No,
in there.
it's an actual. You can, if you go to it, you ask her to pull it out. You can pull the keyboard out and not very far, and you can look at
Uh-huh.
it. So yeah.
Now what's the guts of it? Is it a Pi?
It just has a Pi 4 now, but I
Okay.
think after this weekend, especially, and the way she was using it, I really want to replace it with a framework, like main board and battery in there, and then just reroute the ports to what's in the back of it now.
So has this show already had the history of that? Like why you built that? Why'd you make it pink? Was that her request? Build me a pink computer, Daddy?
So
or?
there is a video on cubicle8.com for that, or it's on YouTube, I guess. But in a nutshell, she said she wanted a pink computer.
Okay.
And we looked at pink computers. She didn't like any of them. We're watching an episode of this YouTube channel called Retro Recipes, and Lady Fractic, as she calls herself, she had an old, like that, basically that same design of computer, and it was tan. And she says, "Dad, can I have that in pink?"
Okay.
And I thought for about half a second, and I went, "Yep." And I modified it from the design that she did. It's made so it has panels in the back instead, where I can put whatever I want on the inside, so it doesn't lock me into a specific hardware on the inside. That's the only change I made. And then we made it, and she's been using it ever since. So writing papers or whatever that she's had to do.
Right.
So yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Legally Blonde when Elle Wood stands in line at the bookstore.
Oh, yeah.
Was it a pink MacBook?
Yeah,
back
it was some
then?
kind of MacBook. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of where my mind went when I saw it.
Yeah, and yes. And actually, I even thought about that
You thought-
when yeah. I mean, this is obviously kind of a mesh of eras because of the color and the style, but it's certainly she likes it, and it's very much hers, and it's the only one like it in the world.
the idea of the framework motherboard is that's awesome.
Yeah, so I have
That's
4
really-
ports to work with, right? One of them's a power port. I can put that right in the
Yeah.
back. I've already got a USB-C port on the back for power anyway, and then it has USB-A ports, and I can just route those to the others that are in there. Well, I might have to route one of them to like a HDMI, because it's used HDMI internally for the screen, but I might be able to bypass all of that and just make it use the video out in there and the audio out separately. But I think there may be some breakout boards to be able to do that, but I'd have to find a solution for that particular piece of it.
Does it have the cooling solution sort of on it? Would you have to vent it? Like, I wonder.
Well, the cooling solution, that the heat sink and the fan are on the framework mainboard, so that would be no
Okay.
problem. Yeah, and there's that case is pretty well vented out the top. So I mean, it probably could use some more venting, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out if it needs more venting. That's easily remedied.
Was that like a
Yeah.
big hatch that was on the back of it though?
Yep. Yeah, you can
That whole back kind of
Yep.
clammed open.
Yep. Yeah, that's why it's well vented. Yeah, you can check it out. Yes, sir. That's another fun thing about these in-person conferences. So I brought my kids to it, and so they're here running around, and there are other kids here, and his name escapes me, but he's a pretty big YouTuber.
Luke Smith?
Luke Smith.
Yeah, he's here.
So yeah, Luke Smith. So Luke Smith is here, and my boy is. They're talking about Mind Test, and my kid doesn't have any he doesn't know who Luke Smith is, so he just treats him like any other chum, either mouthing off, to any random. And it was really pretty funny. I said to Fritz, I said, he's actually kind of a big YouTuber. You know that? He looks at me and says, he is? So, anyway, it's fun.
I was always told that this conference was very much about community. This is my first year, and that is exactly the impression I've got. And just as an example, with the kids running around here in the LAN parties, the conversations that go on between the talks, it is, you feel like this is a big community, and I'm just glad to actually have the opportunity to be here. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I always heard, that Self is all about community, and anybody who hasn't been, I can testify that is exactly how I would describe it, would be community.
And also, if you want to take a shot at picking locks, they got that in the corner too. So we have like a little lock picking stuff. That's fun.
Let me just add, for the community, by the community.
Yeah.
Well played.
And of course, Mark is here. He just showing up now in the little chat, maybe without a camera. I don't know. But Mark from the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group, ALE, he's here.
Is tomorrow a full day as well?
It's a half day. I think it ends at 2.
Yeah, around 2.
Around 2, yeah.
2:30.
Anything good on the docket, or?
Well, I got my little handy dandy.
Well, Steve Evans is going to do another talk that I'm interested in about doing a deep dive into what is under C groups, what is under Linux LXD or LXC containers. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Namespaces and C groups.
Exactly.
Man, I thought Mark was in the sensory deprivation chamber.
There he is.
I see him. I see him coming.
He's walking.
He's coming.
And also, I got to meet Michael Vash face to face. That was fun.
He has a face?
He does.
has a face?
Yes, he
I
does.
didn't think he did.
Yeah.
He has a very pleasant face on top of that, and he's also extremely funny in person. So
He has a super soothing voice.
He does.
He does, yeah.
And he has like just some amazing quips too. Just some zingers just come out of nowhere.
Pull up a chair.
I lost your video. It doesn't.
Well, I was walking.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he may have hopped access points there, walking down through there.
That made it all the better.
Give him a minute.
Let's see some other faces if you don't mind.
Oh, I have the other faces on here already.
We're on.
I don't have my face on here actually, because it's not necessary. We've seen enough of it.
There he is.
So, that's good times.
Oh, hey there.
So what do you think, Mark?
Hey there.
You're muted according to the thing
okay.
in Zoom.
Is this off?
It-
No, that's
It is, but you're kind of far away from it, so I don't know if that's going to be a.
Let's see, make sure I don't get feedback.
Well, if we get feedback, I don't know how to fix it. Oh, yeah.
There's some feedback there.
Yeah, some feedback. I can't fix it.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But yeah, so.
Now we can hurl insults without any repercussions.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But I can hear you.
No, he can come around to the mic.
Yeah. Be like one of those a cappella groups, 3 dudes around a mic. Yeah, it'd be great.
Barbershop quartet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not singing.
Not again, anyway.
A little more Jameson, I bet you'll be singing.
Is there enough room for me to scoot in over there?
Oh, yeah, I think you could,
We'll
yeah.
make room.
So this camera's on right here.
Yep, and then what I was going to say is
I didn't see the word garlic following Mark, so I think he's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and then I'll scoot in inside.
All right. We'll figure it out. Or, yeah, go right like this.
Okay.
Man, Nate's jacked.
I don't know about that.
How many we got on camera now?
I think we have plenty on camera at this point.
What?
Although this makes my nose look bigger from this angle.
Hi, Mark.
I'm Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
We've met.
Great, right? No. Mr. McBride. That's right.
There. It's kind of like reminds me of like Destination
That
Linux
was on one
went
of
in
your
2019
Sunday
when they had everyone trying
That was
to
on one of your
cram
Sunday
everybody onto the
shows.
camera. That was good times right there.
It's been a while back.
You got the brain trust going.
Yeah.
That would be Noah.
Right. Noah's been walking back and forth through here. He made sure he actually fixed the audio thing where people can hear you now out there. So that's good. He says to me, this might cause feedback like a loop in your computer. I said, well, if it does, it's not like it's going to mess up the show because, every other faux pas that's happened, it'll be fine.
So you got the real pause.
So, what have you talked about so far?
Quite a few things.
Talk about the swag?
We didn't talk about the swag, no.
Oh, I got to tell you about the swag.
Yeah, how's the swag?
Unfortunately, this year, I've only gotten 2 T-shirts. My wife is wondering what my wardrobe will be for the summer.
Are you wearing all of those T-shirts right now?
No, I'm wearing the conference T-shirt, and then the other T-shirt is by a Linux vendor, Rocky Linux.
Oh yeah, Rocky Linux is here. I didn't talk about the vendors that were here. But yeah, Rocky Linux is here. We got lots of stickers.
Right. We got to shout out to them too because they have sponsored both nightly parties. So
Yes.
big shout out to Rocky Linux for doing that for us.
They bought the pizza.
Exactly, and the barbecue last night. Right. Correct. So
Awesome.
Dry rub barbecue.
Carolina style. So yeah, it is dry rub.
Now
It
you're
is,
talking.
so what they did was they had like a barbecue plate. You got crinkle cut fries. They come out hot, and then they went ahead and put the barbecue on the side there, and some sauce, which is kind of what I like. It was more of a vinegar base, so it wasn't sweet. It was more tangy, which is what I like better.
Nice.
But yeah, good dry rub. You could tell it had a little bit of spice to it, not a whole lot. A little light on the smoke, I would say, and kind of a little bit of a salty, kind of tasty barbecue plate. So it was great.
Yeah, that's me all day long.
I will say I do
love
miss
dry
that
rub.
about the South. Not gonna lie.
So
Yeah.
last year, Rocky Linux had these little black pencil cases, little pencil bag. I use those things all the time. But I got markers and pens and pencils and everything in there, and that's great. But this year I did get a T-shirt. What else did they have? Koozies.
Mm-hmm.
Beer insulators. Soda insulators.
Yeah, or soda pop.
Yeah, soda pop.
And I see there's
for the Midwest.
and there's a 12-pack of Yingling headed that direction right now.
Hello. Was it the lager? I didn't see.
It was, yeah.
Oh, it was a lager. Yeah, is Yingling the oldest brewery in America, or one of the oldest
I think it's the
So they
oldest.
say.
in America?
I think
It's
you're
the
right.
oldest,
I think it is the
um,
oldest.
Yeah, and they're also still they're independently owned, which is a huge deal. Yeah, good stuff. And Yingling's one of those beers that no matter what bar you go to, if they have Yingling, you're okay because you never know about some of those other beers. But yeah, that's a good one. It's funny you mentioned the swag stuff. I'm still using some swag years later, like it's that good. You know what I mean? Like most stuff, like a throwaway thumb drive or like, some kind of, a junk or whatever. But like I've got umbrellas, I've got power strips, I've got, keychains, all kinds of good stuff like that. Someone put some thought into it. And I always appreciate. I'd go back the next year in the same booth and be like, "What do you got this year?" Yeah, good stuff.
And the party gets larger.
You won't need pins if you go buy the iX systems and the Rocky Linux. Which usually what
There
I
you
do
go.
is I usually load up on pins. That way I don't have to buy any. I just have them at
Yep.
my desk.
Speaking of which, we talked about Rocky Linux being here. Let's talk about iX systems.
Yeah. So TrueNAS is one of the products that iX Systems builds. They've got a big double table. They've got stickers and pins. And one of the guys did a presentation today. Yeah. And pulled out a drive out of a working NAS on stage.
Nice.
Yeah. He was explaining the RAID levels and a little bit about the SSDs, kind of how an SSD is actually a mini RAID in itself. If you take apart one of the SSDs that has NAND chips that are multiple in there, and they function as their own RAID.
Wow,
RAID within a RAID, embedded RAID. I don't know.
that's pretty wild.
Actually makes sense. Never thought of it, but yeah. Huh.
The conference videos, by the way, will be on YouTube in the next day or two. We have uploaded some. Again, that's the Southeast Linux Fest YouTube channel.
I don't think they're on YouTube. I think they're on
A couple got uploaded, not too many,
I think all of them are on PeerTube, though, yeah?
but they're on PeerTube. And but yeah, definitely, if you want to see that session from the IX systems about the TrueNAS.
There actually may be two, because there's one you attended, and I think maybe we had one maybe that got canceled because there was supposed to be a Kubernetes data protection that, I don't know what was that, but he ended up doing a TrueNAS scale later on that afternoon, kind of explaining what was to pivot from BSD to Debian Linux. So they also did that too.
Yeah,
so.
Mark, the one we went to, Mark, it was not by IX Systems. It was just a person doing his own demo on TrueNAS.
Okay, all right. But again, it was
It was very good.
very good on how to build your own home NAS from a hardware perspective, picking the RAID, and then picking the pool settings. And he gave a good tip. One of the tips was go in the description and put the bay where the drive is. That way, when something fails, you know which bay to go after. And so that was a good tip. I like that.
That is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because if one of the drives fails in my setup at home, I have no idea which one it is. I don't. So one of the good things about having those videos taken is, like, there were several talks happening at the same time that I would like to have seen. And last I checked, cutting myself into pieces and putting them in multiple rooms is not going to work. So this makes it a lot easier to make it happen. Like well, I went and I saw this guy, Mark Ulmer. He did this talk on, did you really bring a Windows laptop to a Linux conference? And I had to go to that.
Oh, yeah.
And I did bring a Windows laptop to a Linux conference.
Yeah. So actually, I did too, but I didn't bring it down because I didn't feel confident enough to get away with it. But also, like, another one talk that I didn't see that I want to see is this creating an uncensorable blog with IPFS. That was by Davis Edwards. That I think would be really cool to see because, well, I missed that one. So there's a lot of, like, really fun things that they did and that was going on, and I don't know. It's a really neat experience to be there. Also, the other thing, a really cool talk that I was a part of too is I was an audience member. Was Unlock the Power of IoT with MQTT. So I do know a lot of MQTT stuff. I do a lot with MQTT now in my Home Assistant, but this guy was like next level things you can do with MQTT. He actually went so far as to set up his own MQTT broker as well, and that was pretty cool. So a lot of things you can learn there. And that is applicable to a project that I'm going to do at work for the factory, because there's some things I want to be able to incorporate for as far as sensing the status of things as well. So there's a lot of really cool applications that this spurred on and made me think of. So, and that'll make the boss man happy. So, Noah, nice to see you. Thank you for letting me use your stuff. I didn't actually break anything yet, so.
Let's show Noah July here.
How's it going, guys?
Great. Is that okay? Yep. It's right at your face level.
All right.
So,
Oh, there we go. We got that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys, Nate, with all of the stuff that you do for the community, it is my highest honor to be able to facilitate anything that you're doing. Not to mention, I said this on Ask Noah, like, your commute story to Self is probably my favorite commute story of the entire year, because this man, his dedication is something next level, right? So you're at work,
yes,
and so you don't give up on your job, because that would be
silly.
Yes, of course, and they also pay the bills, but neither here
Yes.
nor there. So you're but you're not just doing your job from Michigan. You have to fly all the way down to Tejas.
Yes.
And you're doing your job down in Texas, and then
Yes.
you get done, and you fly all the way back to Michigan.
Yes.
You win Father of the Year by collecting your children to make sure that they're in full attendance at Southeast Linux Fest, and then you drive at your own expense of your own health to get to North Carolina and bring your kids. You walk through, everybody was looking for you. Like, we're all in this room. They're like, "Hey, has anybody seen Nathan Wolf?" And everybody's looking around. Where's Nathan? Where's Nathan? And I think somebody's like, "We think we spotted him. We think he just got into the hotel." And they're like, everybody rushes out to the lobby, like, "Where is he? Where is he? He was in the green shirt. That's not him. Is he here? We don't know." And then
Somebody did say they saw you Friday night when you weren't here.
so the next day, we find you come walking in. You're like, "I made it. I've been driving, and I've been up for 2 days straight." But
11 hours.
see, that's next level dedication.
Well, see, I didn't want to miss
Let's
it.
give a round to Super Nate, Super Dad Nate.
Yeah. So
Caffeine.
yeah, that was my
That's your
oldest.
kid.
Yeah. He's just walking off. So yeah, I had to be in Texas for work, and then that was actually kind of that sort of happened a little bit of a surprise. Just they needed to happen sooner, so I didn't really have a whole lot of like heads up. Hey, this is happening, and I thought to myself, I thought I can't miss self, but I wanted to be there on Thursday. I said I can't make it on Thursday. It's just not physically possible.
Right.
So
I mean, if you worked a little bit, you have a lab, right? Cubicle Nate Labs?
Yeah.
Have you considered looking into teleportation?
I did, and all that ever really happened was I smashed the banana. So made a terrible mess.
It's off to a great start.
But so I basically on Thursday morning I was up at 3 a.m. to get my flight. I got the earliest flight I could get out of Lubbock, Texas, to went to Dallas. But my layover was a bit longer in Dallas. I tried to even find if there's like a quicker flight I could get on, even if it was like South Bend or something else, Chicago. That didn't work out. So then I got home. Got to Grand Rapids, Michigan by about 2. And it's an hour and a half to get home from there. From there, I drove. I spun up, my kids, got them ready. They already had a heads up. They knew this was happening. So they got absolutely nothing ready. And so I had to get them ready. And then one surprise is saying, "Oh, I don't have any clean shorts." So we had to do a load of laundry on top of that. And then basically I wanted to leave no later than about 5 p.m. We left at just before 9 p.m. And so then I made it here at, what was it, like 8:30? Or no. Yeah, about 8:30 this morning. Then on Friday morning, yeah. And so I did end up taking it. Well, I took like I had a meeting for work at 9 a.m. to talk with one of the consultants and some other things.
And so you skid by the skin of your teeth just getting to the meeting.
Yeah, I did.
Pulled in at 8:30.
Yes,
For the
8:30.
9 a.m. classes, only to find out the classes started at 10.
That too, yeah. But I had that 9 o'clock meeting, so I'm barely coherent in the meeting. Although it was actually a good meeting, I got a lot of things accomplished. But believe it or not, actually, my meetings are actually useful. And then afterwards, I took a nap, and then I came downstairs to start going to do the talks. So
yeah. And meeting up with people and hanging out with people. And have you talked about your daughter's computer?
A little bit, yes.
Oh my gosh, blew my mind.
Let me stop us right here and say, what we just talked about and what we just captured, this is the essence of the hallway conversations itself.
Boy, that's a good take. It really is, because it happens all the way around the place.
So.
And it's just fun. Anyway, yeah, you definitely get the Commute Award this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the computer now, you have pretty much every sticker that's been out is on that computer. I think there's even a Fedora sticker, even though it's running openSUSE. So I know there's a Rocky Linux on there. There's an Ask Noah, a TrueNAS,
Okay.
a big old Destination Linux sticker on the side of it. So it's great.
Do you get upset with your children when they look at other distros other than openSUSE, like a timeout offense at your house?
So as long as it's openSUSE Leap or Tumbleweed, no.
Okay. But outside of that, there's maybe some punishment that is incurred.
The punishment is they have to install it themselves.
How far away is that computer?
It's in the game room over there. Yeah.
Maybe it needs to make it over this way.
I think everyone here's seen it, actually.
Well, and if not, they can find it on your website, right? Yep. You have a really excellent write-up and a video.
I do.
True.
Yep. CubicleNate.com.
I think I'm going to go take a walk and put it on video.
Yeah. In fact, if you want to show them the game room, what's going on in there, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, I will.
So yeah, that's that's some of the great things about just this this whole event is, the fun and the stories, the like you can actually see like the slightly more obnoxious nature of people too, which is great. Because you have like the like Noah, he's very refined, when he's doing his shows, and he's very, very professional. And then you get to see him slightly less professional, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, slacking off.
That's right. And you get to see his really cool gear. I mean, that's something that's quite remarkable too.
It's been an evolution, like over many years. You start with one piece, and then you swap one piece out and figure out what works better. And
Yep. And then I could never afford this board right here. I mean, I could afford it, but I would never want to afford it.
Right. Well, you also don't work in radio, though.
That's
if you spent
true.
the first 3 hours of your day doing a talk show, you might feel differently.
Right.
Which one costs more, the device or the training class to learn how to operate it?
There was no training class. It was Noah sat down in his basement and went, "What does this button do? Oh, what does this button do? Oh." A few hours later.
Yeah, so there's the game room, and there's a computer with lots of stickers on it.
This thing is so cool.
And and then all these people are playing. I think like playing like Minetest and Minecraft. And so my boy, who's a big Minecraft fan, he actually really got into Minetest out here. Because of he wanted to play with other people, like other real people, which is like the big thing, excitement for him. So I think having, I don't remember LAN parties in the 90s at all. I don't know if I'm sure Eric has done those. Maybe Jinda. Jinda, do you have friends in the 90s?
Well, never had any real friends. But
None that would admit it, right?
Yeah.
yeah, right.
So those are really cool. Like, when everyone brought their giant towers and CRTs into one house and plugged it all in. That was just tons of fun. So this is kind of
Ran
like
all the Vampire and Tap.
Yes.
To be able to connect.
Yes.
And get your token ring connected.
And then there's
Holy
one
crap,
that's
we're
got
connected at 100 kilobits.
Yeah. Then there's one that like flakes out on it. Yeah. And then everyone's down. Everyone's like irritated because somebody tripped over a cord because they were getting pizza in the other room.
The golden days,
Yeah,
man.
those are best. Those are the best. Anyway, so you have kind of like that, except without the problems.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to like introduce like a problem simulation.
Also pizza and beer.
Right.
That's
and you have
a thing
that as
too.
well too.
Yes.
So that kind of ties well into the whole Linux Saloon thing, I think.
Yeah.
So and there's and there's peppermint stickers. Look at that. So Zeb would like that. Maybe Colin likes that. Old Destination Linux stickers. I have a few of those.
I have one on my RV still. I just replaced it.
Linux Foundation.
Yeah, that's actually something I would love to see is the Noah's mobile setup in that RV. I've heard lots of interesting.
It's the exact same setup that is sitting at this table. It's just
So right now my laptop's plugged into his dock station that has all this whiz-bangetry going on here, and I was afraid that like my computer just like stopped working, smoke and die because there's just so much stuff here.
any machine can be a smoke machine if used incorrectly enough. But it's actually an interesting progression, right? So this started with something that I call minimum viable battle station. So the idea was during COVID, we all went home to work, right?
Right.
And so I said to myself, if I'm going to have to work from home, I'm going to buy myself a nice desk and a nice setup and a nice all of that. But then I started thinking to myself, well, also, we're probably not going to be in COVID forever. At some point, we're probably going to have to go back to real work. And when that happens, I'm going to have to go back to client sites, and then I'm going to have to go back to working on my laptop. And who wants to do that? It's like after you've been driving around in a Rolls Royce, you don't want to go back to the Geo Metro, right? So I started thinking, well, what if I could make the ultimate the ultimate workstation that can come with me anywhere? But the problem is, if you build that with a desktop and triple monitors and a nice keyboard and a nice mouse and stuff, can you imagine what the overweight baggage fee is going to be when I get to the airport? So I started to think, how can I condense it down? And I got it down to where I have a foldable surface and a little table that goes on top of the foldable surface, and then that ThinkPad Thunderbolt dock, and I have two 27-inch 2K monitors that go into a case, and so they fold together, fold out, and I was able to get the entire setup down to a laptop dock, and then I plugged in my laptop. And so I started by taking my workstation that's in my house, and I connected it, or replaced it rather, with my laptop dock, just to see how that would work. And I found that I don't really miss not working on a desktop. Actually, working on a laptop was just fine. It met all my needs. Thunderbird, Element, Firefox, Terminal, I'm good. So I've started to take that on the road with me, and like now I go into a hotel and I just bring my monitor and I bring my dock and I bring a keyboard and bring a mouse and I deploy MVBS wherever I go. And so that turned into, well, I bet I could do the same thing with broadcasting, because Thunderbolt, one of the things you run into when you're doing broadcasting is you want to bring in camera sources from all these places. The best way to do that is with SDI capture over the PCI bus. But dragging around a desktop to bring all that PCI capture is expensive and, again, weighty. So doing it through Thunderbolt means you can get it down to, yeah, I've got boxes and cables stretched from here to Kingdom Come all over the table, but it all fits into a small little Pelican case that I can check on an aircraft.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then the fact that you have a speaker out there so people can hear everything that's going on too, and
they can party with us.
Yeah, and people walking by are like staring, like I have a lobster growing on my forehead, but that's fine.
No, they just find you entertaining.
Oh, okay.
And don't sweat it. Like, looks are not everything in life. Don't let it go to your head.
That's double broadcast.
I happen to like your lobster.
That's right. Kind of like hanging out there. It's good times, for sure. Well, it is about that time to talk about next week, and so it is a distribution exploration. So does anybody have any suggestions? If not, I have one I really would like to target.
Well, let's listen to yours, Nate.
All right.
What do you got?
So because of Jinda, don't freak out, Jinda. It's okay. Your talk of MX Linux I thought was very interesting. And unless if somebody has anything else they would like to maybe do a little exploration on, that seems like kind of the one.
You want to do the beta that came out?
Is that the one that you were working on that you had a really good time with?
Yeah, I'm working on. Well, I haven't got the alpha. I tried the beta too, but I went back to the alpha because I didn't feel like reinstalling everything right now.
Okay, so
I mean, it's changed a lot. They really ramped it up.
So I'd really like to see what they've done with XFCE, because I haven't actually even touched XFCE in a while now.
Have you checked out Endless?
Endless OS?
Yeah.
Not in a while. I've not checked that one out.
Okay. But you've done an exploration on it before?
If Eris were
Long
on
time
tonight,
ago, I think.
Yeah, if Eris were on tonight, then he would tell me when.
Okay.
Chris and them are all wild about Nix right now.
NixOS? Yeah, have you done NixOS?
We have done NixOS.
Okay.
And I think that there was another one, not Nix, or was it?
How about Vanilla?
We did Vanilla recently also.
Okay.
Yep.
MicroOS was on the list for a little bit.
MicroOS is, as well as Fedora Silverblue. That's also on the list.
How about BlendOS?
Is that?
No,
is
we
that
haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that. But is that one still in transition? Because they were transitioning bases.
No, Vanilla's transitioning bases.
Oh, Vanilla is.
Yeah.
Yeah, BlendOS, weren't they going to Debian as well, or was that Vanilla?
Vanilla's going to Debian. I guess I don't know.
BlendOS just brought out a new, I think he just released another one, I believe. And it's got 9 different distros attached to it, apparently.
Oh. Wow.
9 different bases, sorry.
That's quite the blend.
Yes.
I see what you did there. That's clever.
Well,
that's MX Linux 23, yeah? Is that what you want to do?
Well, some of these more like interesting distributions like BlendOS, Vanilla, and Nix. I think if we do those, we need to have like and I've said this somewhere, but like these are the things we should try. And I wonder if there's a source for that now. Like if you're gonna do that, these are things because they're more unique. Not so much like on the surface. Can you get a desktop running and watch a movie? That's that's who cares, right? But doing something really interesting with those distributions, I think it should be part of the exploration process.
Okay. Almost like have a resident nerd based on that can help.
Yeah,
that help us navigate it.
Yeah, or if they have like a have fun doing these particular tasks with it. Like with NixOS. That's the one that you can also run on Mac, right? You can have Nix packaging, right? Is it Nix? Which one has it that you can port the packaging? I thought it was Adam told me this. He used some other distributions packaging on Macs. He's probably eating dessert now. I don't know what he's doing.
I'm not, thank you. No, you're talking about like So the Nix package manager you can use
Yes,
on the Mac.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
And you can use Homebrew as well.
So there's some like interesting things you can do with Nix that I may not necessarily like fully understand unless we go through these steps. And I want to do that, but I want to be well planned out before we kick that off.
You know what I would say? I would say if you did NixOS, I would say that a good. I would say, what if you did like 4 machines? Because the idea with Nix, right, is you can rebuild quickly, and your entire configuration is just a file. So, going on that thread for just a moment, you get it tweaked the first time on whatever machine it is, and then go blow away and start treating your laptop like a cattle instead of a pet dog, and see if it performs, right? And if you get there and you're like, yeah, I don't care, I can blow it away and just start over, well, then you know you've succeeded and you've leveraged what Nix has to offer. If you're like, it's not quite there yet, that gives you now you're evaluating NixOS based on its differential factor, right?
Right. And that's what I want to evaluate these different things like Blend and Nix and whatever others with those, like, because they're like next level. They're a whole new almost genre of Linux distributions, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like a whole different bailiwick. And I just want to give them the appropriate attention. And I think So I guess then, so I want to do those, but I want to make sure I have that in place first. That's kind of where I'm at with those.
That makes sense.
I like the computer you built for her.
Well, she actually put a big hand in it. She actually assembled it. It wasn't just me.
Right, she told me that.
Okay, all right. It was a team effort.
I know the parts she had a hand in. She told me. You should
Oh,
be
good.
proud of her. She should be proud of you.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the cleverer uses of a Raspberry Pi I've seen.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite so far.
Have you put the case on Thingiverse?
So I didn't design the case. It is on Thingiverse, and also the modifications I did on Thingiverse too.
The reason it caught my eye is because the color was wrong and the size was wrong. But back in 1977, I owned an early smart terminal called an ADM3A. Have you ever heard of those?
No, I have not.
They were probably the first smart terminal to reach the mass market, followed shortly by the VT100, which kind of swamped it, which is why
that's the one I'm most familiar with.
Right. The ADM3A came first. It was I think it was almost the first terminal to be cursor addressable over the entire screen. So you could like do things like Rogue. And it was blue and it was larger, but the shape strongly resembled that case.
Yeah.
Really looked a lot like it, and so it caught my eye.
No, there are similar in design to that. They actually have a widescreen aspect ratio that has a full number keypad and everything else too. But there's.
You're recording this, aren't you?
Well, I'm recording it actually. So, but yes.
No, you're live.
And it's live on YouTube.
Okay. Well.
So
yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yep, it's definitely fun.
I asked her to show me it running, and she did.
Good.
Have him join the show. Invite him in.
A couple of my kids are sitting over here on this couch, so kind of hiding.
I wasn't really planning on yakking anymore.
That's all right.
Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it. So
I did an interview with one of your guys earlier.
What's that?
I did an interview with one of your guys earlier.
Oh, good deal. So yeah, I need to definitely put together a plan for that, for the Blend and Nix and that whole crowd. So maybe
yes, and just want to add real quick one thing.
Sure.
Like at the same time, we don't want to get too on the path of like trying to engineer an experience. Like there is a level of like having someone who is not too familiar give their take on like if there was a new experience, new user experience, and because Nix has done a great job at trying to make it more approachable with coming out with a GUI installer, and some of that kind of feedback could help out these projects too.
Right.
So a little both.
But I think just a testing, like a testing recipe of sorts, things to test, things to try, see if you can do these very interesting things with it. You know, like Noah said, build it, blow it up, and build it again, and see if you get that like the repeatability factor. I think it'd be really cool. Like that's a neat. That's a neat
use case.
Use case for it.
Yeah.
So I guess back to that other previous. So, maybe we should for the next distribution. I think we should do that. We should definitely do something like Nix or Blend, or I think Blend. We haven't done Blend yet, right? Is it Blend we haven't done? I think it's Blend.
I'm pretty sure we haven't done Blend. I'm sure we haven't done Blend.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure.
So for
MX23.
MX23. Does anybody have any objections besides Noah?
The beta, right? Or are we doing which one?
What's that?
There's beta.
Yeah.
The beta.
Yeah, this
beta version, yes.
Yeah, this way we can also,
beta.
if we have any feedback, we can give it to Dolphin before it goes live, so we can actually help them out.
Is its code word still Wildflower, or is that?
That was the previous one.
That's the previous code word. What's the new code word?
Oh, we can ask Dolphin. He's right there in the chat.
Dolphin, what's the new code name for this one?
Yeah. Maybe he's eating dessert now, and he's
the one before Wallflower was called Patito Feo, which means ugly duckling. And I was gonna say something that it should be like Guapo Dolphin in Spanish or something like that for the new one, but that name wasn't really taken.
That's hilarious. Dolphin didn't respond to the question. But what's the code?
It's libretto.
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 Okay.
It's called libretto.
Thanks, Jinda, for answering Dolphin's. Yeah. Okay. Dolphin got it now. Libretto. All right. So we'll do that, and then that does mean it's. Let's see. Hold on. I have other things here. So Ulfnick, we can't. Let's move your stuff to next week, from Magnus Jorgensen, and I'll definitely save that in the show notes. So thank you very much. So yeah, if you have any suggestions for anything on linuxsaloon.com or for Linux Saloon, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. They can be discussion suggestions, distro suggestions. If you have an idea for a straw poll or an application idea that we should track down, yeah, please send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. I like email. I'm one of those that happens to like the oldest form of electronic communication, besides a phone call.
So you like bulletin boards?
Bulletin boards would be great. Yeah, we should go back to that maybe.
There's one distro I'd like to try eventually, Nate, is one I'm running on my Lenovo laptop at the moment is Rhino Linux, and they've got an XF Rhino Linux. It used to be the rolling Rhino Remix.
Okay.
They've now updated it to Rhino Linux, and they're running an XFCE desktop called Unicorn, and it's really nice. So I suppose it's called Unicorn because it's something you've never seen before with XFCE. I suppose that's why it's called Unicorn. But yeah, it's a very nice desktop.
Well, that's something worth checking out.
It rolls on the Ubuntu base, and I think it just continues to roll, I think, on their main releases, I believe. So
interesting. It
stays up to date. Yes. So that would be one I think we should look at in the future as well.
I think that'd be fun for sure. I'd like to see. Because basically, if Fedora is basically rolling but slightly slower, and then you have Tumbleweed, of course. It'd be nice to see something on the Debian side here, of the Ubuntu, a good rolling, I think.
Ubuntu Core is coming out.
Oh, that's right. They're having an immutable option as well.
Yes, that's correct. They are.
They have like an immutable party.
Year of the immutable Linux desktop.
Exactly. All right, well, it's that time for last call. And so, Eric, do you have a distro Hoppers Digest that's coming up?
We actually just released one. So
Excellent.
43 just came out, and we'll record the next one in the beginning of July.
Awesome. So you want to give us like a little tease on what it's about?
Well, it's three of us talking about what we accomplished, failed to accomplish, and the distros that we took a look at, and yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of like in-depth stuff on each distro that we go through. I looked at Kubuntu myself, Kubuntu 2304.
Sweet. Yeah, I should have bothered Noah before he left. I'm sure he had something to plug. Oh well, I messed that up.
Maybe he'll come back.
Maybe he'll come back. Mark, the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group. Is that going on this Sunday?
It is. The Atlanta Linux enthusiasts meet every Sunday from U.S. Eastern Time 3 to 6 p.m. It will be going on tomorrow. I may be a little late.
I believe it.
Yeah. From Charlotte here, where Self is being hosted, it takes me about 4 hours to get home. I'll probably leave around noon.
Okay.
So, but we have a great collection of people with different experiences and backgrounds, and they're there to help out with questions and answers. So, there's no set agenda. Bring your questions. Anyone's welcome to join the conversation. And again, you can find out more information at ale.org. And again, it's every Sunday, U.S. 3 to 6 p.m., U.S. Eastern.
Awesome. I don't think I'm going to make it. I'll be driving.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to plug? No?
I don't think so.
Nothing. So, Colin, you said you're going to be spinning up your videos again here pretty soon, you're thinking?
Yeah, hopefully. Yep. I can't put a date on it, but yeah, definitely looking at it again. Yeah, for sure.
That's excellent. And then I probably should have plugged, since Noah did let me use his Ask Noah booth, you can check out the Ask Noah show. He does it. He goes live every Tuesday at, it's like 7 p.m. Eastern, but I think it's like, what is it, Central? 6 Central, something like that. So you can be sure to check that live if you like. If not, you can go get the rerun. Linux User Space is currently on break, but check out, keep an eye out for live streams and other releases. They got some more videos coming out over the next couple of weeks, so check that out. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We just recorded one last night, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what we talked about. I was so tired. But we did, I can assure you we did record an episode, and I think I was coherent enough. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I do things, you can check that out. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network. Check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. You can check out like Destination Linux, This Week in Linux, Sudo Show, Hardware Addicts. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it. Oh, there we go. There's our Ask Noah label right there. See? Boop.
Fancy graphics there.
Yep.
Check out Ask Noah.
Yep.
Since he let us use his booth.
That's right. And he also does actually another radio show. I wish I actually was on it some time ago.
Critical Thought.
Critical Thought. Yep.
It's a radio broadcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it also he also records it too, because I actually listen to it after the fact, a podcast. So, Critical Thought. It's actually really good. It's a discussion, talk show. So people call in. It's like the old call-in style. It's pretty great.
Him and Steve.
Oh yeah, and I think Steve is here too, isn't he? Yeah. So I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation, both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching this show after the fact. I want to thank you everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see ya.
See
ya. Bye.
So long from Self.
I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the Self.
I did.
I did.
I was muted. That was a trial run, and a thing for the bloopers. There we go. Such as the desktop. We will be talking about, what? Yeah, it's kind of. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your patience in my inability to operate this extremely complex setup here, which I don't know what I'm doing.
Noah's booth has more wires than any 4 tables here.
Did we mention that we saw Thomas?
From
Drager OS?
Oh yeah, Thomas is here too. No, I failed to do that. Yeah, Thomas is here for a little bit. He actually gave a talk, and I missed his talk, but he gave it. I'll watch it on the reruns.
Oh.
And
I spoke with him for a little bit.
Yep, I did too. I met it. He's not here now because he has a girlfriend.
And he lives here, so
Yeah.
he can't stay at the hotel. He's got to go back home, right? So,
Right. Yeah, he lives nearby. So, also thank you, Brandon, for being a part of this. That was great. Good. Every Saturday night, if you don't have a life, feel free to join us.
And we mentioned Michael Kelly, right? Vashinator.
Yep, we did.
I spoke with him a little bit yesterday.
Yeah, I talked with him quite a bit. A couple of talks, I sat by him. So that was fun.
And you covered the StrawPolls, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. We did. Yep.
Yeah.
It was in the show notes. If it's in the show notes, I typically remember to do it.